I think this list is representative of the discussion we just had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're good to go with that 6?
I'm good with it.
All right.
The search for a new city manager in Palm Coast continues. Karen Johnson has an update.
Describing the assortment of candidates as small and unimpressive after 4 weeks, the city's headhunter for a new city manager has now marked the ad as open until filled. Vice Mayor Teresa Pontieri is concerned about one of the finalists, William Lee Smith.
I think if you look at his resume and if you read about some of his accomplishments, they would be great in our city. Some really good economic development accomplishments, budgetary, balancing budget accomplishments, things like that. But he was kind of abruptly suspended and then fired by his last city council, and nobody had any grounds. Nobody would talk about why.
Councilman Ty Miller thinks it's worthwhile to pursue Smith.
I agree that the resume looks great, right? So I think maybe it's worth bringing him into the final round to kind of explore that more and see if there's, a reason that we can see why that happened.
And then Councilman Charles Gambaro has positive comments about candidate Thomas Hansbarger.
He is probably one of the toughest bosses I've ever had to serve under in my life. And I worked for the president, right? That mission that he did as a senior military advisor for U.S. Forces Afghanistan, training the Afghan Army is probably one of the most complex mission sets that anybody can run.
Palm Coast City Council will spend the next 2 weeks reviewing the short-listed candidates ahead of the March 11th meeting when they are expected to vote on the short list. For Flagler's Local Morning News, I'm Karen Johnson.
Good morning, Flagler County. I'm Rich Carroll. You're listening to Flagler's Morning News on Wednesday, February 26th.
Over the weekend, deputies handled 709 calls for service, conducted 229 traffic stops, and made 16 arrests.
Last weekend was a busy one for the Flagler County Sheriff's Office. Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley.
A couple of the notable arrests was a male and female driving around Palm Coast were determined through investigative means that they were both fugitives with active warrants for retail theft. After a traffic stop to arrest them on the fugitive warrants, they were also found in possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia. They were taken to the Sheriff Perry Hall inmate detention facility. Great job by our PACE team working to get them off the streets. In another case, a suspect committed battery and then fled, but unlucky for him, he was wearing an ankle monitor for a previous domestic violence arrest. Deputies located him and arrested him. This abuser gets the Dumb Criminal of the Week award for again committing an act of domestic violence and then trying to flee while wearing an ankle monitor for a previous arrest. Excellent job by our deputies, dispatchers, and our real-time crime center staff to locate and apprehend him. My opinion, every woman should stay away from this abuser.
This local news is a service of Flagler County's Toyota dealer, Beaver Toyota, here to wow you.
We've been really busy. I think Jorge and I, over the last probably year and a half, have been really focusing on the beach renourishment and really coming up with a funding plan and a strategy.
Flagler County was the focus of last week's Friday free-for-all.
Flagler County Administrator Heidi Petito says she and Deputy County Administrator Jorge Salinas met with Marineland residents last week to talk about the county's plan.
It's really a follow-up to the joint county-city workshop that was held this month, and then it's going to reconvene in March. So we wanted to go out and take the time to meet with each one of those municipalities ahead of when they reconvene in March to really educate them on what our plan is and share with them the funding plan that we are laying out as staff.
Petito says the health of the beaches is critical to the county's success.
If you look at the value of property that you have on the Barrier Island and you look at that tax base, per capita, the Barrier Island generates more in taxable value than anywhere else in the county. So if you looked at if we had a potential loss, whether it's a direct hit, Cat 1, Cat 3, if we were looking at a 25% reduction in value, we would lose over $8 million a year. School board would end up losing, I think it was like $6.5 million. When you add up how much that revenue loss would be to our community, looking at the town of Marineland, Beverly Beach, Flagler Beach, it was upwards of $16 to $18 million a year. That's only at a 25% loss. Try providing the same level of service that you receive today, minus $16 to $18 million.
Discussion on Flagler County's beaches and how best to protect them continues tomorrow. I'm Daryl Moody reporting.
And now you're up to date on Flagler's Morning News. I'm Rich Carroll.